Is Bitcoin about to wake up from its nearly 2 years slumber? Welcome to Modern Moneymakers. This is Jeremy, and let's dive into it and look at some charts. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, you will notice here that we had a huge weekly candle putting in a higher high on the year, and now we're looking at testing 30,000 as support. That's a very strong signal from Bitcoin, and 30K acted as a strong level of support over that bull run in the 2021 timeframe. As you recall, it held up very well throughout that bull run before that top in late 2021. What's causing this? Why is this happening right now? And I think we want to take a look at some news. And obviously, I know a lot of you've already heard crypto has a new rescuer, according to Yahoo Finance. And that rescuer is Wall Street. And let's take a look here and see what's going on here. So the world's largest money manager, Blackrock, they've got 9 or 10 trillion assets under management, depending on the day and who you're reading, but they're the biggest one by far. They're looking to start an ETF. Many of you probably have already heard this. There's also some other big players involved, as you can see here. We've got Citadel getting on board. We've got Fidelity. We've got Charles Schwab. And interestingly, if you go a little further down here, from a custody standpoint, we've got Deutsche Bank looking to jump in on the custody side of the operation as well. So let's talk about why this might work. Why could this win? What are the chances? What are the chances that BlackRock can pull this off when no one else could? We've had actually Grayscale sue because they've tried so many times, and the SEC kept saying no. Well, BlackRock, aside from being the biggest player in the game, has applied for 576 ETFs and only been rejected once. So if they're a sports team, they're 575-1 is their record. I don't know about you, but I'm betting on that team any day of the week. And the interesting quote here from Larry Fink is they got 3,000 hits on their website about monetary policy, and on their same website they got 600,000 hits about Bitcoin. Go figure. He's starting to notice public interest there. And here we've got $15 trillion earthquake could be headed for Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. It lists some altcoins here, and we'll get into that 15 trillion, but I will make, kind of a side comment here that I think some of what the SEC has been doing here with some of their actions recently maybe has been paving the way so that they could give a bigger player like BlackRock that first, kind of entry into this rather young market and allow them to pave the way for others. Once BlackRock is approved, I think the others will fall pretty quick, and there'll be others shortly after. But let's dive into where are they coming up with this $15 trillion number. Well, you've got 10 trillion in assets under BlackRock, and then you've got another survey done by Laser Digital that worked with a major banking giant and revealed about 96% of professional investors managing almost 5 trillion are keen to invest in crypto. So there's your 10 plus 5, I guess, is where we're getting that 15, right? So is 15 trillion going to come into crypto? No, it is absolutely not. But let's take 1/15 of this number just for fun and say, all right, let's add a trillion to the market cap of Bitcoin, assuming that the circulating supply is the same as today, and we just, artificially inflate the market cap by 1 trillion. What would the price of one Bitcoin look like? Well, it would be north of $80,000. Now, I'm not expecting $1 trillion to come into this space tomorrow or next month or anytime soon, but I can tell you if $1 trillion came in over the course of months in buy orders, that price would be rising rather dramatically, and it would shoot well beyond that $80,000. So that is like the lowest of the low it could be with $1 trillion. Regardless of the fact that, we're coming into the halving cycle, as most of you know anyways, and we are expecting some pretty significant upward price action, but this ETF would inject billions of dollars of new money into the market, and yes, that would absolutely move the price in addition to the normal halving cycle and the supply shock that causes the price to go up. In fact, the diminishing returns, and I'll do another video on that, but there's this theory of diminishing returns with every 4-year cycle, and I think that this ETF news could break that diminishing returns and give us a higher return than we saw in the last cycle, but probably not as high of a return as we saw on the cycle before that, where Bitcoin topped out. Oh gosh, I want to say it was in 2018, early 2018, something like that. Yeah, late 17, early 18. I think it topped out at 20,000, and from the bottom it was multiple X's, and I think it was only like a 3 or 5X last cycle. So there's this whole diminishing return thing. But I think the ETF could break that trend, and we could see Bitcoin go much higher. And give us some more generous returns. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF application could change the game for Grayscale's lawsuit against the SEC. Let's jump into what that means. So if one of these approved, basically the BlackRock is approved, then Grayscale would theoretically be able to convert into an ETF, rendering its lawsuit against the SEC moot. Basically what they're saying here is that should BlackRock be allowed to proceed, essentially gives a blueprint, that Grayscale could follow. In addition, if SEC chooses to allow BlackRock to proceed and approves this ETF, and subsequently approves Grayscale as a result, that could potentially lead to them of being able to avoid losing this case in federal court, which I think could be more likely than not. So this could be a roundabout way of them allowing Grayscale to have their ETF and not coming out of court taking an L, taking a big loss, but allowing BlackRock in first. And it's a buddy system there with the big money in the players. So you think that Larry Fink and Gary Gensler aren't talking? Come on. Yeah, sure they're not. All right. And, whether or not that's good for the space is a topic for another video. I'm just talking about what this is going to do in terms of price. And one more thing, just, I got curious. I said, okay, what did the price of gold do after the first U.S. ETF for gold was approved? So that takes us back to 2004. And as you can see, gold just went it just ripped after that, and it had at the time a much larger market cap than Bitcoin. I believe it had around $1 trillion market cap at the time, which would be about 1.6 trillion in today's dollars. It went to gain 327% by August of 11. I think we could expect bigger moves out of Bitcoin being relatively speaking about half the size that gold was at the time. Adjusted for inflation, probably closer to a quarter of the size that gold was at the time, So, you look at this, and once this ETF was approved, it just ripped. And coincidentally, let's take this off here. When you look at the crash that happened in 2008, right, it came down and tested as support these highs where it ripped to right after the ETF. So it definitely found support at a new high, and then it kept on ripping as we injected money into the economy. Obviously, that was part of it too. So that being said, what do you think that this will do for Bitcoin if and when this BlackRock ETF gets approved? And more importantly, what could it do for degens like us that like to trade in things other than Bitcoin? I'm personally more excited about ETH in terms of a large cap project, and I'll probably ride the wave over there more than I will directly buying Bitcoin. And I've got some other lower cap projects we'll be talking about along the way, but I'm curious what you think. What do you think this is going to do for Bitcoin? Not is it good or bad for the industry? What do you think it's going to do for the price of Bitcoin? Should this ETF get approved? That would be my question to you. And how are you playing this? What are you doing and what moves are you making during this time as you kind of see this writing on the wall and see the way this market is reacting to the almost inevitable news that this should happen? As always, thanks for stopping by Modern Moneymakers. This is Jeremy. Thanks so much, and please drop a like and a comment below if you have a moment. Thanks.